Hey, I'm Charles Williams from inside the principal's office, and I'm in the middle of making dinner for my family. But I wanted to take a moment to invite you to our show this Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know, in the same way that we have to nourish our bodies, so must we nourish our minds and our souls. And our brand new book is out, and we hope that it does just that for you. If you want to learn a little bit more, get a peek inside the book if you haven't bought it already, then join us this Saturday, me, my co-host Mike, and our co-author Rob, this Saturday at 10 a.m. I hope to see you there.
We use mirrors every day. We look at our reflection and we use that reflection to make the adjustments needed to look picture perfect. If you want to be a great leader, you cannot underestimate the power of reflection. Nothing gets better. Nothing improves without it. Saturday, I invite you to join me and my co-host, Charles Williams, and our co-author, Dr. Robert Thornell, as we discuss our new book, Inside the Principal's Office, a leadership guide to inspire reflection and growth. Join us at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on all of SchoolRubric's social media pages. It's going to be a great conversation.
Hello and welcome to Inside the Principal's Office, presented by SchoolRubric. SchoolRubric is a nonprofit organization dedicated to connecting educators from around the globe and amplifying their voices. Today we have a new format for Inside the Principal's Office, and I'm going to be hosting this. I am the co-founder of SchoolRubric and an ex-international educator. It's not Mac and Charles Day. You got me, but they are joining us. And why are we doing this? Well, we want to learn more about the leadership journey of Charles and Mac. And we're going to be also joined by the co-author of their new book, Dr. Robert Thornell. So let's go ahead and bring everybody on screen and say hello to everybody. Great to have all of you guys here. I'm excited to be hosting this. And of course, we're going to be talking about your new book. SchoolRubric is extremely proud of this book and to serve as the editor and book publisher of this project. You guys got your books, your copies there. I've been reading it myself. Extremely exciting. So tell us, let's start things off by just tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to write this book. And we're going to start with you, Mac.
Dr. Robert Thornell, he is a brilliant mind, and I am so lucky and blessed to be attached to this thought leader. He actually approached us with this great idea of creating a resource for other administrators. My passion is leadership development and developing leaders, and I got on board quickly because this is an excellent tool and a way to expand my influence and my reach. I have a passion to develop leaders and to impact student learning through leaders. So it was a no-brainer for me. I was like, I'm on board, and I would love to use the experiences that I've had so that younger administrators don't make some of the mistakes that I've made.
Well, I know they were excited to have that passion come out in the book. And Mac, I'm sure you appreciated to have those guys keep you accountable with making sure that you did got your parts turned in on time.
Well,
Charles,
we're going to talk about timelines today. We're going to talk about the product. We're not talking about timelines.
You got it done, and we're extremely proud to be
That's funny.
To publishing this. And Charles, can you just tell us a little bit about what inspired you to take part in this project with Dr. Robert Thornell and Mac?
Yeah, I want to admit it's some of the same things like Max said. When Rob came to us and pitched this idea, here I am, and I'll be honest, we were just talking about it the other day. Like, I'm the baby of the group. They were asking, how many years in administration do you have? And they're like, 20 this, 20 that. And I was like, if I do the quasi like teacher leader, I think I'm at like 10, right? And so I'm the baby of the group. So I remember being just in awe. I ran to my wife and I was like, babe, this guy wants to write a book with us. Like that's amazing. And so, something we say a lot is that we wish that we had resources like this. As a teacher leader, there are so many resources out there for our teachers to grow and to develop and connect with one another. But theirs was nothing like that for me, at least. And I'm sure for my colleagues, like there was no leadership book. There's no reflection book, that kind of said, hey, this is, some suggestions on how to move forward. So that is something we've talked a lot about what we are trying to create here inside the principal's office. And I thought this is a great opportunity to continue doing that work in another medium. And so when it was brought to us, I said, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm pretty sure I followed my deadline. No, I'm joking.
We're not talking about deadlines.
For educators like myself that never were in that administrative role, it really is exciting to sort of, as we say on the show, step inside the principal's office. And I know that's a lot about what this theme of the book is. Robert, tell us a little bit about what inspired you to have these two crazy guys join you in writing a book.
These guys are the inspiration. It started, I've had a dream to write a book for a while. When I met these guys, I was on the show last spring and we just started talking about things, and their energy and their passion really inspired me. And so when we got together, started talking about this, the idea was we have the book inside us. We have the voice. We've been through these experiences. When you read it, it's just short little tidbits of things that we've done in the past. And it was pretty easy to put together because of their expertise, because of the experiences I've had. And we wanted to do it. One of the things, the first time I met these guys, our discussion was about the different hats a principal wears. And Mac had a commercial with a bunch of different hats. And that really is the theme of the book. There's 5 specific themes we'll talk about later in a little bit, but the principal has a lot of different hats. And in my mind, there wasn't a lot of books out there that addressed all of those. You can get an instructional leadership book, you can get a culture book, but those are in isolation. And the principal's job is not in isolation by any stretch of the imagination. And these guys incorporate that. They're sitting principals right now, and they lead with their hearts. And so it was just a natural fit. We talked about that.
Well, I love what you said about energy and passion, because I think all of you as educators bring that. And as we kind of go, I do want to just acknowledge, we've got Nancy. Thank you for joining us today. We have Nancy. Ashley.
Come on, Ashley.
We love getting our comments from our audience, and we've got Peyton and John. So please, guys, leave. The Mac crew, leave a comment. We love to see everybody in the audience and engaging with us. But let's talk about the book. Now, you have tons of reviews on Amazon, and they just keep coming in. There's been a lot of amazing comments and feedback about the book, and we're going to see that come up on Amazon right now as we look for the book.
It looks like one of Wallace's shirts or something.
It's been on the top of the new release charts pretty consistently.
Yes,
and,
number 2, isn't it?
Yeah, number 2 yesterday.
So I've seen it go 2, 1, 3, 1 back to so very exciting stuff. Tell us more about the structure of the book, because that's one thing that really stood out to me and was something that I really enjoyed about the book. And I know we're going to bring up some slides that kind of show us a little bit about the structure of the book. But Rob, can you just go ahead and just tell us a little bit about that structure of the book?
So when we first started talking about this, it was kind of one part devotional, one part journal, and everything that went with that. And that's really, in my mind, we thought we would do like a, kind of one chapter a week. And that's how it's written in 40 different weeks. And we kind of tried to settle on a number where that was. And we ended up with 40, and it was great. But I've had other people say they just read it straight through because they like all the ideas. But what you will see in each chapter or each week, as we call it, is there's a message. Try to be kind of inspirational, tell a story. And Charles and Mac and I all divided those up, and we told some stories from things that we've done, but also just tried to lay out some inspiration and some vision and motivation. So that's kind of fun. That's kind of the text, if you will. But we wanted to do more than that, and we wanted to kind of take on those 5 hats that a principal wears at different times. And so in each chapter, each week, you'll see a question or a challenge about instructional leadership. Something, it's kind of things we need to know, not rocket science necessarily, but they're just kind of friendly reminders. Hey, have you checked on your new teachers this year, and how are they doing? Stuff like that. and we'll go through some samples, but then we talked about servant leadership, because it can't all just be about books, right? We're in the people business, and these guys know that better than anybody and have shared that. And so that's kind of fun. And we also talked about, what am I learning? You know, we encourage all principals. You've got to be a learner at all the times. And you've got to, not only that, you've got to be able to share that with your staff and with your stakeholders. And so that's an important piece. And so we give little reminders on how to do that. And then some things that these guys are real experts on: tell your story. You know, a principal nowadays, with social media and everything that goes with it, you're constantly branding your school. And that's an important piece of the job that they don't necessarily train you in when you're getting your master's, right? And then finally, we like to leave it. We want each week to have a celebration or a reflection. And we want to look in the mirror like Mac did on his commercial and just talk about what we do. So each one is different. That's what's unique about this, is there are challenges or questions in each of those 5 categories every single week for a principal to go through. And that was a fun learning part of the book. It really was.
Yeah, for me, one thing that I really enjoy about the book are some of those practical things that you can just take away and use immediately in your school. And I know as an educator, I always kind of appreciate that, something I can grab right away and go and take into the school. And as you talked about, Robert, there are 40 chapters or weeks in this book, and we want to encourage everybody that's watching, you got to pick up this book. It's for school leaders. This is an incredible guide during the school year, and especially as we tackle this crazy new school year. So as we talk about this book and, you know, the kind of the layout of the different weeks, I want to ask each one of you to start by telling us maybe about one of your favorite weeks in that book. So we're going to go ahead and start with you, Rob, and just kind of share with us a little bit about what's one of your favorite weeks from the book.
Sure. Well, I pulled up on my past, and it's a story that I've told principals and assistant principals in trainings and different things before. But in week 17, I believe it is, it's called Fans Don't Boo Nobodies. Mm-hmm. And I'm a huge baseball fan. And Reggie Jackson was the one that said that and made that famous. But I think especially in this day and age, right now, trying to navigate being a principal or a school leader during the pandemic and everything, you're going to get criticized. You're not going to make all the right decisions. You're going to have to be mentally tough. And Reggie Jackson used to say, "Fans don't boo nobodies." And that was a reminder to himself that, he was the star. He was the big guy on the team, and people were going to look at him. And when he failed, he might get booed. But he used it as inspiration and as a reminder that, you're going to have to make a decision and move on. And so, one of the things that we'd like to say about that is, at the end of the day, or when you lay your head down on a pillow at night, did you do the best you could? And did you do it for the kids and the teachers in your building? And if you made that decision based on that information, you got to be able to sleep well. And so that's a reminder I've used over my career, and it's just kind of a fun one. And when I'm in different principals group on Facebook and stuff, and I see what all they're going through, and I have lots of friends and talk about the struggles that they have, I tell them that. I have a friend of mine that she actually made. She's a high school principal, and she made that sign and has it hanging in her office. Fans don't boo nobodies, because she just wants to remember that. So that's one of my favorite chapters, and I just think it's you're the only principal in the building, right? You're the only one.
Right.
And it can be a lonely job. And so you have to have things to remember that it's going to be okay.
Well, in the climate that we're in right now, it has got to be almost impossible to please everybody, make everybody happy. So, that does ring true. And I know with a challenging year like this year, especially. Charles, why don't you tell us a little bit about your favorite chapter or week from the book?
Yeah, you know what? So before I jump in, I wanted just to echo something that Rob just said. I love the fact, Rob's a baseball fan. I don't know if you've ever seen him. My Cubs things back here, right? Like I have a broken Javier Baez bat, right? And so, like one of the things that you're absolutely right, when the star goes out or an amazing player goes out and messes up, that's when those boos come. And while it may hurt, it may feel like, why am I getting booed? Right. I think it's a reflection of the expectations that people have of you. Right. And so as a school leader, right, when you get that boo, right, nobody's standing outside yelling boo. That would be weird.
Well, sometimes.
I don't know. Yeah. I'll give people some years.
Yeah. But, it means that they care enough, right? That they definitely want to say, hey, you know what, I have high expectations of you. I want to see you succeed. I want to see better from you, because, you know, if they didn't care, if they didn't have those expectations, when you messed up, it would be like, we expected that to happen, right? Like the rookie on the team, it's like, whatever, right? But I just wanted to echo that sentiment, because it's like, it may hurt, but there's a reason behind it, right? There's a reason why they care enough to boo you when you do mess up.
Right. I think that's great. They have expectations of us. And one of the things that I do when I work with leaders or mentor is I create a leadership ladder with them. You know, what is your end goal? What is it that you really want to do in education? And then I'll go and I'll create a leadership ladder with them. I mark up books. I don't know if you can see in my book, but on chapter 17, I have that ladder drawn in this book. And the first rung for any leader that will help you when you're getting booed is self-awareness. You have to safeguard your leadership from criticism by being very aware of who you are and being very aware of your personal mission and ensuring that what you do aligns with who you are as a leader and what your convictions are. Make sure that what you're doing daily is aligned with the collective commitments of your learning community. And that helps you to, again, safeguard. I mean, because we're human and no one wants to be booed. So there is a human emotional aspect of that. But when you lay down, Rob was talking about laying down at night, you have to be able to be sure in your mind that I did what was right and I did what's aligned with my beliefs. That helps you kind of shake it off. That helps you shake it off. Another one of the great things is, Rob, if you have your book, I love the thing about tell your story. The other thing that we can do, the tell your story aspect, is tell your story to explain your decisions. You know, tell your story. Open yourself up to your learning community so they know your heart as a leader. And when they know you and they trust you, they may not trust or agree with every decision that you make, but when they know you as a person and what you believe, they'll say, well, I don't know, but I'll think about the pattern that Mac has built with me and my family. So, you know, maybe we'll do this. Maybe we'll go on and see how this is going to turn out.
Absolutely. I think that's, you know, you think about that. That's like Reggie Jackson. He was known as Mr. Clutch for a reason. You know, people had a belief that he was going to come through, even if they didn't like him. And I think that's what you're talking about, Mac. They're going to believe in you if you come through.
Yeah. And look at that. That's beautifully written, Dr. Thornell. Don't be defensive by what they see or they say. Like Charles was saying, they care. They're invested. And at the end of the day, you have the same goals for kids.
Sure.
So
absolutely.
Can I be honest? So Mac called me the other day and he told me, hey, look, I'm going to be in the Chicago area. I'm coming in for a training. And I was really excited, right? Because I'm like, I get to connect with him again. We get to see each other again. You know, he's coming to my hometown. We get to connect. And then, and I'm just going to be honest, I didn't even tell him this, but I'm confessing here, Mac.
What are you about to say?
He said, maybe I could come to your school. Yeah. And in the moment, I was terrified. And it's nothing against Mac, but here I am thinking, my God, like, what if there's something wrong in the school? What if he sees something, right? And it was a moment of, you know, I was terrified. But then I was thinking about it, just like we've talked and just like we're talking today. I said, no, I want him there because maybe he'll see something that I don't see. Maybe he's going to give me some of that amazing guidance that I know he's given so many others to say, hey, Charles, have you considered this? Because I'm only going to grow from it. But in that moment, I was terrified. Well, so I'm glad we were able to bring this up.
And I will say that's so important that you shared that, Charles, because I think that's what we do. You know, whether it's setting up time for teachers to go into other teachers' classrooms or having principals come visit your school, we're too nice sometimes. And it doesn't have to be an ugly thing, but if we're going to be transparent leaders, we got to be willing to take that and say, hey, look at it with some fresh eyes and give me some feedback. And I won't be defensive because I trust you and I trust your opinion. And I want to get better. And so that's what that question is about. And that's kind of what that chapter is about.
Yeah. It's about the two hats, learner, leader every day. We're leading, but we're learning.
That's right.
Yeah, and sometimes it's hard to hear certain things to get better, but in the end, that's what we're all trying to do is get better. So I do want to get on to another week, and let's step to Charles's week. What's a favorite week from your book?
Yeah,
Charles?
so I chose week number 5. It's about baking a cake, and I really love this one. One, as you saw from my video, I love to cook. My youngest daughter loves to cook. In fact, that's what we're doing today for her birthday. We're going to go to a cooking class, and she could practice and have some fun. But what I really like applying it to the school building is that, when you memorize a recipe, when you're going through things in lockstep, right, you're probably going to come out with the same thing every time. But great bakers, great chefs, that's not how they do. You have an idea, you have a framework, but you put your own twist on it to cater that product for your customer. And we as educators have to do the same thing. Right? When I first became a teacher, I had nothing. I had to create everything from scrap, right? I had to pull it all together. And that is how I created my lessons. That's how I created my units. That was my curriculum. And it was powerful because it was curated to the students that I had that year. The next year I had a framework, but I found new ingredients. I put little twists on it, again, catering it to the students that I had at the time. And that is something I tell my teachers all the time when I'm interviewing, when we're in the space. I said, look, I'm going to give you a ton of autonomy to create the decisions on how you want to get there, right? The non-negotiable is we have a goal to reach, right? How you get there, that is up to you and your students, and you're going to have some fun with that, and you're going to figure out how to get there. But that is scary for some people, right? Some of my teachers love it. They're like, yes, I have that autonomy. But for others, it's scary. But we have to get to a point as educators, as leaders, to know our craft well enough to where we feel comfortable saying, okay, I'm going to put my own little spin on it. I'm going to put my own little tweaks on this. So that way it becomes truly a reflection. Just like Mac was saying, this is truly who I am. And when somebody sees it, they're like, oh yeah, that's an element of Charles in the building.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything, Rob and Mac? One thing I'm thinking of, I'm in the corporate space, and really what always kind of stands out to me in the space that I'm working in now is that they're encouraging those mistakes, right? Because those sometimes are the way that we learn the most is through trying new things and making those mistakes and learning from them. What's been your experience, Mac, in the building with making mistakes, adding new ingredients?
I don't think
I
Mac
think
makes mistakes.
I think I make mistakes, and I'm very honest about it. And I can think about a mistake that was made on our campus today or this week when I had to stand up and be the leader and say the buck stops with me, and I take responsibility, and this is the corrective action that we're putting in place, and so it won't happen for this kid or any kid moving forward. I think I know. My desire and my passion is to create a true professional learning community where everyone is learning. And one of the things that we must recognize is that mistakes is a necessary part of learning. No one gets it the first time, but you have to make the mistake. You have to analyze it. You have to reflect. You have to decide what you're going to do the next time. It's kind of like when you are baking that cake. I don't bake cakes, but I eat cakes. And I've seen my wife bake cakes, and I know that when it's in the oven, I have to be real quiet. But I see her. You know what she does? She comes, and sometimes she'll take the batter, or when she's cooking, because she's an excellent cook, she'll come and she'll let me have a taste of it, and she'll ask me, what does it need? She's asking for that feedback. She's asking, did I do it right? Does it need more cinnamon? Does it need more nutmeg? And I'm the professional eater, so I can tell her, perfect. Or not as good as the last one, put a little more of that in it. So we need to make mistakes, and we need to expose our mistakes to others so they can help us.
Yeah.
So they can help us.
You can sometimes take a bite and you're like, oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
No,
Claire Springer saying lots of cakes. You're eating them with me too, Claire and Ashley Wally. You ate those butter cookies. Well, no, you watched Ms. Johnson do it yesterday.
When we were actually building this draft, this was a chapter that Charles and I swapped some messages about, saying, hey, yeah, we're thinking about this. And what I liken it to is that box cake. That box cake is good, right? And that's what it is. It's good. You can get by. You can have a kid's birthday cake party with it, and everything's going to be fine, and nobody's going to complain. But Jim Collins talks about good to great. Mm-hmm. And you have a great cake, it's going to take a little bit of that extra nutmeg or whatever it is to customize it for yourself. And, as principals, we can't be robots.
Right.
take your training, take what the district office says, take all that, and go back to your campus and make it your own. And then that's advice I would give. And that's what baking a cake's all about.
Make it your own, get feedback, make those mistakes. I love it. Let's jump
Ryan
in.
doesn't do cakes. Ryan customizes cocktails, is what I understand.
Well, actually, yeah, and let's go back to that reflective question for us, Mac. Can you just talk about the reflective piece of the question of this chapter?
Yeah.
Or, sorry,
well,
this
one is.
Sorry, yeah, this is Charles.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But it's looking for those teachers to be able to do that, right? And we've talked about these things, I don't know how many times, but it's not an I've gotcha, right? We're not looking for the mistakes that are being made, but letting our teachers know that we support them, right? That I've got you, right? We're going to carry you through this. And something I talk a lot about is walking your talk. If you tell teachers, right, at the beginning of the year, I give my teacher the principal permissions, it's not coming from a place of ego, but I know so many teachers, despite what we say to them, they're waiting for permission. So I get it out of the way up front. And I say, look, I want you to be innovative. I want you to get creative. You have permission to make mistakes, but know that I'm going to be there to support you. And then so we have to be able to do that. And so what I love about this one is when you walk into that classroom and you see them taking a risk, right? If there's find something to celebrate. We meet every single Wednesday. It's just the way our charters are built up. So every Wednesday we do these shout outs and spotlights on instruction where I get to say, hey, I was in so-and-so's classroom and I saw them doing this and it was awesome. Right. And so now it builds them up to say, oh, they're really supporting me, but it creates a culture of other teachers to say, oh, okay, no, this is really what this is about stepping out, taking those risks, and that it's going to be okay. Understanding, like we just said, there's going to be mistakes along the way, but we're never going to make it to excellence or greatness if we stay in our safe zones and keep doing the same thing over and over again.
And I got to jump in there. What Charles said is so important about that permission. Give teachers permission to build a lesson from scratch. Mm-hmm. And sometimes when you're cooking, it doesn't always turn out exactly how you imagined, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But if you have a culture that allows for that, then you've done a good job.
When I know those lessons from scratch, when I look back on my teaching career, those are the ones that I'm the most proud of, are the ones that, and they didn't always work, just like you said, but the ones that did work, there is just a feeling of accomplishment and just an overall amazing feeling when you've created something of your own and it does reach the kids and really make learning better. I do want to jump into our last chapter that we're going to talk about today. And this is from Mac. Mac, what do you got for us? Where are we going in the book?
Favorite chapter is chapter 30, Leadership Every Day. And I tell you, I read and I mark up books, and it is an amazing feeling to read your own book and mark it up. Because again, leadership is my passion. It's something that I think about often. And when I think about leadership every day, leadership is about influence. John Maxwell says everything rises and falls on leadership. And it is so important for leaders to understand and utilize influence. Influence is what we use to make things happen in our building. We leverage our influence and our relationships. And as I read through and as I reread, the thought that came to me is influence. Leaders have to understand that influence is really a language of its own. And when you think about the way that we communicate, 55% of our communication is nonverbal. It's in our body language. It's the way that we move. So we must understand the way that we influence others just by the way we walk in the building, by the way we greet each other. I tell people all the time, we set the weather. If you're in a building where you're whispering and you hear whispers, how's he doing? Is he in a good mood? Can I go to the office today? You're not using your influence to push your mission. So we have to stay focused. We have to understand that people are looking for us and that we provide the stability and create the atmosphere that's conducive for what? Student outcomes. So use your influence, leverage your influence, and know that you have to prioritize and give time to every group that influence. So it's important for you to understand and use your influence with parents, teachers, students, district office, district teams, you really have to understand that you are really poised and positioned to really make a huge impact, not just when you're sending an email, but how you're walking down the hallway. Mm-hmm. Leadership every day, all day.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm curious. How do you get that leadership sort of persona? I know you exude a lot. You guys exude it in the room, but is it something that you just naturally have? Is it something that you learned along the way? Charles, I mean, you're the young guy of the bunch when it comes to being in this leadership position. How do you become what Mac is talking about?
Yeah, so for me, and I think we've had this conversation before in certain spaces, that it goes back to like Mac's first rung, right? Understanding who you are and having confidence in yourself. Like anybody could be in the principal's seat, but it doesn't mean that they're a leader, right? Because if you're going around like when those fans are booing you, when your parents and teachers are booing you, if all you're trying to do is appease them by doing everything that, you are not comfortable, you are not self-aware and confident. So I think that's where that leadership or aura or persona comes from, to say, I know why I'm here. I know my purpose. I know my why. And I know that I'm going to do everything that I need to do in order to make that happen. For me, that's what leadership is about. It's not about a title. It's not about being able to direct people. That influence stems from you being confident within yourself. Because if you're not confident, if you don't believe in yourself, there is no way anybody else is going to have any confidence in you. They're not going to believe in you. And for me, that's what leadership is all about.
Yeah, and I want to turn this to Rob. And Rob, I'd like to hear your perspective of not maybe from yourself, but I know you deal with principals all the time. So kind of what is that, we talked about that first run, but what are some of the things that you see in dealing with, principals from all over the place?
Well, I think that, I actually wrote a blog on this just a couple of weeks ago, because I think, it's a mysterious thing of what's the it factor? What's the it factor that makes a great principal versus an average one or a good one? And I think that some of it is talent. There's this talent and skill piece. And this is actually goes back to the book. One of the things I love about the book, a lot of those hats are skills that can be learned and worked on and improved. There is a certain talent level of a natural personality that you just have to have. But there's a lot of things that you can, and I think that's what some of this book does, is it intentionally works on some of these skills, because the difference between a talent and a skill, talents you're kind of inbred and born with, and a skill is something you can work on. And so, I take that into part of it. Part of it is just do you have the passion to do it? Coaches, athletes, all kinds of things, passionate people have passionate followers. And I think that's something to remember. And I'm showing, I think it goes with sharing your story. I think it goes with learning, and it goes with everything that Mac was talking about. It's leadership.
And I think, going back to what you said, these are things that can be learned. And that's why we have this amazing book, so that anybody watching and those educators in schools that are thinking about jumping into a leadership position, whether it be within their group or become a principal, I think this is an amazing resource to guide people on that journey and learn from some of the best, Mac, Charles, and Rob. You guys, this is we couldn't be more excited at SchoolRubric to be publishing this book and amplifying the voices of the three of you. And hopefully, if you're watching today, there'll be many more of you that are going to want to go out here and buy this book. Let's talk about that reflective piece of your chapter, Charles, and then our Mac, and then we'll get into our wrap up and our ideas that stick. So do you want to just kind of wrap this chapter up for us, Mac?
Yeah, the question that I wrote for what you're learning is to identify others to help you do one of the most critical things that a leader does. A leader has to prioritize what is important and where teachers need to spend their energy. What collective commitments are made on the campus? What is your focus every single day? And so I think that there's great power when you don't work in isolation. And that's why we're trying to create this space where you can, talk to people in your district, or if you join our Facebook group inside the principal's office, shameless plug, that is a space where you can ask, let's identify what best practices are. How are you prioritizing for teachers what they need to be doing every day, and how do you as the principal prioritize? I have all these plates that I'm supposed to be spinning. How do I do that? So that reflective question, I think that we work in isolation too much as principals. And even when it's just a principal and an AP, I think that the job and the weight of our responsibility is too heavy just for the one or two. So, how are you engaging others? How are you engaging others to help you do your work?
Well, Mac, I know you do not work in isolation, because every time I'm on a call with you and you're in your office, there seems to be at least 2 or 3 or 4 teachers coming and going in the background. So I know that
I have a true open door policy. If the door's open, they can come in anytime. If it's closed, and there's a sign out there so they know if it's closed, I'm working on something, don't bother me. But if it's open, there's always a that door.
Yeah, and that goes back to that feedback piece and getting information from your teachers. Well, let's wrap things up. Let's get to our ideas that stick. So last thoughts for Mac, Charles, and Rob. What advice do you have for principals this year, or people maybe aspiring principals? So let's start with you, Charles. What is your idea that sticks?
Yeah, so we touched on it a few times already, and I love it when that happens. But my idea that sticks is that your focus determines your destination, right? Oftentimes when we are in buildings, we are scrambling around, we're trying to take care of, we're putting out little fires, and then we will sit there and we're like, why aren't we making any progress, right? Well, because our focus is scattered. It's not on the important things where we're just trying to take care of all those little things. So making sure that we are spending time and focusing our time, our energy, our efforts on those things that matter, as we keep saying here, making sure that it's aligned with your mission, your vision, your goals. And that is where you're going to end up. I was thinking, like, when you learn to drive, right, that they tell you where you look, that's where your car is going to go. Same thing with leadership, right? If you are focused on the wrong things, you are not going to end up where you need to be. So make sure that you're spending that time and energy on things that are aligned with your mission, vision, values, and goals.
Mac?
My idea that stick, and my advice for admin is this: that you have to embrace your role. You got to know your role, stay in your lane. And you are still a teacher, sir. You're a teacher, ma'am. You don't teach kids directly every day, but you are a teacher of teachers and your parents. Everyone needs to learn in a professional learning community, and you are responsible to setting the atmosphere and creating the systems to ensure that learning happens. Not just teaching, because you can teach a good lesson, but did the kids learn? It is our job to ensure that learning happens. And we know this: when teachers and adults learn more, kids learn more. When parents learn, when teachers learn, kids learn at higher levels, and that's our goal.
Love the advice, guys. Rob, you're up.
Man, mine's simple. Be bold. I actually, when I laugh about this, I started this a few years ago, and I started it with my own kids. I text them almost every day, tell them, be bold today, do something cool today.
That's good.
And I think that teachers need to know it. I think leaders need to know it. It's easier to ask forgiveness than it is permission sometimes. And as a leader, we don't do it. But the safe thing is just to do what do the easy thing. And so I think be bold is a reminder to myself. I put that on almost all my tweets. But I think the advice that I would give is something that I've given many times. I've had to whisper it to myself when I was in the principal chair, but I've given it to other principals. And it's just a simple phrase that I used to remember. I don't want to be sitting here in this office in May wishing I had done something and not done it. And that's if that's a teacher personnel issue, if that's a kid issue, a parent issue, whatever it is, I don't want to be sitting here in May saying, I wish I had changed that in December when I had the chance. And so when you reflect on that, it gives you the confidence to go ahead and pull the trigger when you know you need to. Because too often we kind of just wait too long.
Great life advice. I want to look back, I don't want to look back on my life and have any regrets. We got be bold. Yeah.
Hey, I'm old. I can give lots of life advice, mostly on what not to do.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at these things. This is really great. Just sort of overall life advice. Focus will determine your destination. Embrace your role as a teacher. Be bold. And then my advice to kind of wrap things up is to have fun. We are I have an extremely stressful job right now. It can be extremely stressful being in education and a teacher with all the things that you got to do. But, when it comes down to the end of the day, you got to make things fun for yourself, because it makes everything so much easier. It makes getting up and going to work easier. It makes going through your day easier. So, I saw somebody mention, there was a comment, have that growth mindset, do whatever you got to do to make sure you're just enjoying your day, your week, and your life. So have fun is my advice for everybody. Thank you guys for tuning in. If you're in the audience watching, we really appreciate you joining us today. And I do want to give a big thanks to Rob, Mac, and Charles. And, it's so exciting to finish this book and School Rubric's first publication, hopefully many more publications coming along. But congratulations to you three on the book. You can buy that book. You can find it on Amazon. We have a link that we'll put in the show notes, and we can put that up on the screen right now. It is a bit.ly link. So purchase your Inside the Principal's Office copy right there. It's bit.ly/inside principal book. And again, you can search that on Amazon and find it there. We have a Kindle version of the book that'll be coming out soon. So we really, I encourage you, if you're an aspiring principal or a principal now in your building, you got to get your copy. This is an amazing resource for any school, for any principal, for any teacher looking to step into a leadership role. And, before we do leave, we've got some pictures and videos that we took when we met this summer. So I had the pleasure of joining Rob, Charles, and Mac this week during our summer meetup. And maybe you could just, Mac and Charles, Rob, tell us a little bit about what we did over the summer.
We had
introduced ourselves.
We had a meetup in person, and this book was written before we even met each other. So we met each other at the principal meetup, the first of many principal meetups. We may be coming to a town near you. Put in the chat where you would like us to come to have conversation and dialogue like this. But we met and we wrote this book. And there's another man that we have to mention. He's the guy that's doing all the technical things, and he was the editor, and he did so many things. And that's Wallace Ting. He is amazing, and this would not have come to fruition without him. So we can't get off of the air without acknowledging his many contributions.
Thank
Well,
you,
and talking about deadlines, I know for a fact that Wallace was in the background making sure those deadlines were met and followed through.
Check.
So, yeah. Of course, a big thank you to Wallace for all that he does in terms of the copy editing, holding you guys to your timelines, and getting this pushed out. But let's wrap things up. Let's show the folks that didn't make it to our live session. We're hoping to be doing some more in-person meetups. I know that was just an amazing experience. We actually retaped one of these episodes live and in person. You'll see that kind of through these clips, but we're going to end on that note. Thank you again to Rob, Charles, and Mac. And remember, go buy your copy. So it's exciting stuff. Yeah, throw up your copies, guys. Let's see everybody's copy on the screen. Thank you all for joining us, and let's roll to our in-person meetup from the summer.
Thanks, guys. Thank you, everybody.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching School Rubric on YouTube. Make sure that you like, follow, and subscribe in order to stay looped in on all of our diverse collection of shows, interviews, panels, tutorials, and more from educators around the globe. And visit us at SchoolRubric.com for even more great content such as our online articles, Interact magazine, featured podcasts, and more. Thank you.